they've made their decision. They're not going to change their minds. They're sticking with it come what may, despite the massive disruption it's going to cause to Bedford town centre. You know, you're talking about remodelling bridges, remodelling roads, you're talking homes and businesses destroyed, you're talking about lives destroyed.
For this site, I've asked East West Rail, who are the landscape architects who are advising you, and could we not have visual material to help understand this route? And each time we've had absolutely no response.
I got called up by a secretary and asked if I would submit some questions, which I did. One of them was chosen, which I asked the Mayor and also Councillor Headley, who has time and time again stressed that there is absolutely no way the route can go south because it will go through sandy RSPB. We've looked at those reports and it is nowhere near that sandy RSPB at all. So he's making things up.
If they had sent something through originally, like they did in March, this affects your property, then everybody would have listened to what they were saying. But it was all done sneakily. We never had anything through the post, 100% not.
It's all part of the big plan, which is the Oxford-Cambridge arc, 85-mile corridor from Oxford to Cambridgeshire, with approximately 20 size towns of Cambridge within that 85-mile-an-hour arc. So that is why the council are pushing for the northern route. They're going to massively build up here, housing. Also, they're going to massively build down south as well, which could impact on the way the train line could go south. So the whole thing is just a big picture. It's just a massive, great big building scheme, and the train is a small part of it.
East West Rail basically say that east of the A1 they're following the existing transport corridor, which is the A428 there, and that's in accordance with government guidelines, but they've chosen not to do that west of the A1, so between Bedford and the A1. And my view is that it was inadequately consulted. That route consultation, that decision for that route should not have been made on the basis of the information that was shared or wasn't shared on the consultation in 2019.
This is all predicated having a new connection in Bedford Town Centre, a new railway station there. Yeah. And at what point having a station there is justified in terms of the damage? There must be a cut-off point where he says it is too much. And I personally feel it is too much. You know, there comes a point where you've got to say, no, we're not going to go down this way because of the effects of it. And it's not just here. This is beautiful, you know, the environmental effect, the noise, but it's also down in town, you know, the poets, up to 100 houses being knocked down. It's horrendous, horrendous. And you know what's going to happen? Once that viaduct is built, they're going to build houses right up to it. So Bedford is going to be, not Bedford, Clapham is going to be this sort of funny little place, isolated because of this big viaduct with houses all around it. I think it's just going to be horrendous.
When I look at this countryside, I think, why would you build a railway across this really attractive, precious landscape? Yeah. It's where people come out to enjoy the countryside from Bedford as well as from Ravenston. And why would you build a railway across here when other alternatives exist? You wouldn't want to spend the money on creating really difficult alignments across very steep undulating countryside, creating bridges, even the requirement for another river crossing at Clapham, across the River Ouse, which is one of North Bed's greatest assets. Why would you do that when there's other cheaper and quicker, more direct routes available.
Why, when there's a perfectly good route which goes alongside an existing transport corridor along the A421 and along the new A428, would you choose to carve up this beautiful countryside?
The southern route, one of the options I've seen, actually aligns quite closely to the A421, which is quite intelligent. In terms of, you've got a travel corridor already there. There are challenges in terms of height as you get closer to at the end of the last junction before you get to Black Cat. But there is the Varsity line. I know there are houses there, but you can go around them at a reasonable distance. And that doesn't disrupt the greenbelt land as much to the south as well. So we're not just saying protect the north, we're saying protect all greenbelt land.
The construction of this viaduct would take out two main arteries into Bedford at different times or the same time. It will also need to cross what is now floodplain where we are and the Ouse in two different places.
This walk would no longer exist because the train would run immediately across between the two woods. There'd be a giant barrier, the railway would extend on either side, and this walk, which everybody absolutely loves, would no longer exist.
So we'll be coming roughly through where this tree is, and the route will go through and down towards Shrubbery Lane there, and it will be a massive cutting. We're looking at a bank that's probably going to be, we think, 10 to 12 metres high. The construction is going to be massive, the noise, the impact on the environment, the badgers, the hares, all the animals that we see in these fields and in our garden.
Is going to be coming past our house, and I understand there's also people in the town centre that will be on the other end of the route that's actually having their houses demolished. In other villages, houses taken down as well. I just think it's really, really sad.
It's about what it's going to do to the village. It's going to cut into it and destroy it, as far as I can see anyway, with the massive viaduct, and it's just heartbreaking.
It's going to shut us down. Full stop. Yeah. So we've gone from a sort of spending all this from a grass field to a proper livery yard to having nothing. So it's not good at all. Like
this is a Grade 1 listed building. There are more than 30 listed buildings, most of them much bigger than this, in Wrenhold. If the proposed routes 8 and 9 go ahead, this cottage will be less than a mile from the railway track. Some of them will be less than that. The village church, this one is 400 years old approximately. The village church is actually Grade 1 listed building. That's 800 years old, I believe, and that's less than half a mile.
Clapham Park Wood, which is an ancient protected wood, is just here.
There's actually
We can walk down.
an ancient tree down there as well, a registered ancient tree, which is on the East West Rail maps as well. So the closer route, which is towards the bottom of the field, takes it along the bottom, still has a very high ridge with the embankments. Whatever it is, I think 13 or 14 metres plus trains on top, and depending on if they electrify, whether third rail or the delightful stanchions everywhere, that'll be quite impressive. And then it goes down there, little viaduct over the brook, and then huge cutting up that hill.
How wide is it supposed to be, Jet, in the end? Because I don't remember what you said.
I know at Clapham Park Wood, it's as wide as 100 metres.
I believe that they had something like 7,000 responses to the first consultation. Of those, something like 2,500 came through one of the wildlife charities. They put something in their magazine. People actually gave their opinion who'd probably never even been here.
I sent an email to the village council, parish council, with a load of. I had a quote from our company that does all our designing of our letters and all the rest of it, and they do brochures and stuff like that. And I got a quote, and I said I'd sort of pay for it all, to have all the flyers done and to have letter drops in the area and all the rest of it. Yeah. And it was, nobody got back to me at all. Nobody at all. Apart from some lady named Carol said, "Oh, bless you, thank you very much, it's all taken care of." What, you've taken care of my end of my livelihood, have you? Or my daughter's livelihood?
And now for this to come out of literally nowhere, it's ridiculous.
And they won't give us any answers, so we've contacted EWR to say, you know, we've had to put our life on hold now, we can't finish off the house, we've got garages to build, the lines to move and things like that, and it just will cost us a fortune. And if they then decide to bulldoze the whole house, then we're back to square one, we've got to start again.
But I've seen no information about it, and when East West Rail says we will provide that information nearer when we have our DCO submission, it's all a bit late, because we need to understand now the impacts so we can actually have a proper view on it.
These villages now are being asked to vote against each other. None of us believe that any of the routes are right. I don't want to push it to Wilden and Ravenston and everywhere else, but I can't have it here either. It's just not right. There should be a live consultation. I believe things have been hidden because of COVID. Let's have a live, proper reconsultation. Give everybody a chance to speak.
It's probably going to be much more difficult to argue against the train when it's already there. And that's where I think that our future is not very good in terms of our children and this train. East West Rail haven't put any plans together with regards to what they're going to do with those sidings, so that you could imply that maybe it could be more disruptive, it could be more land purchase, because they've only got a limited amount of land available to them on the east. On the west there's more, but crossing the fast lines with slow trains is going to be more of a scheduling problem. And I fear that could be another sting in the tail when it gets to statutory consultation, and then it's too late.
That'll open the way for more building of houses and industrial units in the north of Bedfordshire. And then you haven't got the infrastructure with the roads to deal with that as it is. I just can't see it myself.
The impact to the environment and to North Bedfordshire is going to be massive. There's going to be a huge viaduct where the railway will be going through the top of Wilden, and we think that's going to be something like 20 metres high. It's just going to be absolutely horrendous. Why Bedfordshire Borough Council and EWR want to push this route through North Bedfordshire, we just don't understand.
My concern is not only when the railway is actually running, and I believe there are going to be trains every 4.5 minutes, every 4.5 minutes, 18-hour day. They are going to, in between those 18 hours, during that gap, there will be maintenance of the track.
And if HS2 isn't going to be carbon neutral in its 120-year lifespan, will the Oxford-Cambridge arc be? Is it even worth it?
The nesting barn owls, the little roe deer herd, everything would be completely decimated. And we want this for the future generations. We really need it. And an indiscriminate line for a railway which is going to be freight 4 an hour. Each train is going to be 1/4 mile long, carrying nuclear waste. You know, where's the green agenda in all of this?
I think everyone feels that decisions have been made behind closed doors. If we were really certain that the best route had been chosen, it'd be much easier to accept it, and it would be a chance to really work hard on mitigation and compensation. But currently, I think there's a unanimous view that decisions taken about strategic infrastructure haven't been made on quality information, and certainly without proper community input. So that's why I think people feel very disappointed with the approach taken by East West Rail.
My name is Paul Jenkins from CPRE Bedfordshire. The important thing to remember about East West Rail is that it's part of the government's Oxcam ARC strategy, which is about supercharging growth between Oxford and Cambridge by building roads and railways and delivering 1 million houses by 2050, with the aim of bringing growth and prosperity to the area. Well, there's nothing wrong with creating jobs and prosperity, but you have to approach a strategy on that scale in a balanced way. And when you hear people saying things like, the Oxcam ARC is going to be Silicon Valley UK, you need to be worried that the politicians and developers who are driving this are getting carried away, and they're just pursuing growth for its own sake. And what's happening is that the council and government agencies are working with developers, landowners and business interests behind closed doors to make these things happen with no meaningful information sharing with local people. And this is the wider context for what we're seeing here locally in relation to East West Rail. It's quite clear from East West Rail's report that the council was very influential in their choice of the preferred route. And now it's perfectly reasonable for the council to have an important say, but it's not reasonable for them to develop a view and influence that choice without any debate in the council or without engaging with local people to understand their views. Now the implications of the route chosen by East West Rail and the government are widely known. There's a groundswell of local opinion that feels very strongly it's the wrong choice, and people are very angry with the council for the part they've played in making that happen. From CPRE's point of view, the contrast between the two routes is very plain. The southern route benefits from an established travel corridor alongside the A421, whereas the northern route goes across open countryside and rural villages. COVID has made everyone much more aware of the positive effect that nature and the countryside has on our quality of life, and we're sure that's played a big part in the strength of opinion we're seeing. We believe the council's plan to support the route is based on our ambition to develop new towns of between 5,000 to 10,000 houses in the north of the borough, and we believe that's the wrong choice made for the wrong reasons. These are issues that should be debated in public and considered in the council's upcoming review of the local plan before work on East West Rail continues. East West Rail and the council should now accept the case for having a major reset of the project timetable for East West Rail to allow for a closer examination of the pros and cons of the northern and the southern routes before coming to a final decision.
This is our countryside.